Good morning, everybody. It's me, Darlene. I have Parkinson's disease. Today, I would like to talk about hidden versus visual disability. There's a lot of disabilities you cannot see in a person, and there's a lot of things you can. If you see somebody who has a white cane, you will assume that they can't see. If you see somebody who is in a wheelchair, you will assume that they have trouble walking. But if you see somebody who has perhaps a mental disease, you don't necessarily know what's wrong. Well, Parkinson's is a lot like that. Everybody's symptoms are different. If you see somebody that's trembling and shaking, you might say, I think they have Parkinson's. But that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of situations that will cause a person to have a tremor. There's also a lot of Parkinson's patients that tremor is not the main thing. For me, this movement that I have is not considered tremor. That's considered dyskinesia. And what happens is when your medicine that you're taking, your levodopa medicine, when it builds up into your system to the level that I'm having to take, it causes this extra movement. So therefore, the very medicine that is making me function is making me have this other condition. This other condition is preferable to the first not being able to do things. But there's plenty of times that people do not realize that you have a problem when you first get Parkinson's. A good example is in an elevator or on an escalator. If you're on an elevator and you're expecting to go to the 6th floor and you get on at the bottom and it stops at the 3rd floor because somebody else wants to get on. Well, you have been mentally preparing yourself to get off at the 6th floor. So therefore, you've gotten yourself positioned in front of the door so that when the doors open, you're going to get out. Well, when they open at the 3rd floor, your brain has to make an abrupt change because now there's somebody wanting to get on and you're not going to be getting off. So you have to step to the side. Any average person doesn't give that any thought. They automatically step to the side, the other person gets on. There isn't really any thinking involved. If you have Parkinson's, you have to think about that movement. So there the doors open. You have now spotted that there is this person that's needing to come on, and you're now trying to tell your brain to move me sideways. Sideways and backwards are not easy movements. And so you're trying to tell your feet to move that direction, and it takes a few moments. Now, if you've got a lovely person on the other side, they wait and they see that you're going to move. But if you have somebody who's impatient or in a hurry or doesn't understand that there's a problem, they just simply see you, they think that you're being rude and not moving out of their way. And when they think that you're being rude and not moving out of their way, then they can say something nasty to you. And the more people that do that, the more you stay in your house, the more you don't go out into the world. It's easier to not have to deal with those things. And it's hard. Like back before we didn't go to restaurants because of the pandemic, we would go to a restaurant, and it takes a lot. When I would look at a table, I would have to go, okay, I could get into this chair, but if it's a booth, I have to be on the outside because if I slide into the inside, I'm never going to be able to slide out, right? because those sideways movements, they don't happen very easily. Or if I have to abruptly turn around, um, I need a 10-point turn to abruptly turn around. Like, I can't just wing it. I can't just turn and have no problems with it. And so you tend to then stay in more and go out less. Even your exercise, you tend to not make it outside walks. You tend to make it in the apartment, in the hall. Before we moved back here, we used to walk regularly on this lovely trail outside, and it just got to the point where I would just say, "Oh no, I'm not going to come today," or I'd make an excuse for not being there. But in actual fact, there was a bit of fear involved with, like, what if I get somewhere and I have a hard time getting back? And, I couldn't see the solution was I was with people who cared for me and they would make sure that I got home. I didn't see that. I simply saw that it was a problem for me. I'm also sometimes unreasonably afraid of something. I can tell that it is unreasonable, but that doesn't stop it from being a problem for me. For example, we'd spilt a little bit of soup onto a burner, and Bill cleaned it up and whatnot. But when I went in to use it and I turned the burner on, there was a tiny little whiff of smoke. Well, I quickly shut it off. Now, I knew, my brain knew it had been cleaned. My brain knew that if I didn't think it was clean enough, I could take another cloth and I could clean it even better. But somehow in my head, I had built this to be, I will turn that burner on and the smoke alarm is going to go for the entire apartment building and 96 units are going to be evacuated and I'm going to be to blame. And so therefore, I phoned my daughter and I said, "Can you buy me a new burner?" She says, "What do you need a new burner for?" I said, "Well, we had spilt soup on it." She goes, "Well, we'll clean it." And I said, oh, Dad already cleaned it. But I was sure that it wasn't going to be clean enough. She said, "Well, let me come over and look at it." And she came over and she goes, "Mom, it's fine." She said, "I'll just turn it on and we'll burn off that little bit of smoke." Well, I could not physically make myself stay in my apartment in the living room in case the smoke alarm went off. And how I thought this was going to make it better, I don't know. I thought, I'll go into the bedroom and I'll close the door. Well, I'm still in the apartment, and if the apartment's alarm's going, closing myself in the bedroom was not going to do a darn thing. My brain knew that, but I couldn't physically stop myself from going in there. She came out, she burnt a little bit of smoke off. Nobody's smoke alarm went off. She said it was perfectly clean, Mom. She said it just had, you just turn on for just 2 minutes and it was fine. But even when I knew that that was the case, my brain just wouldn't accept that. And sometimes it's very difficult with that. So when I say sometimes things are hidden, nobody looking at me would know that there's some kind of a bolt loose upstairs that was going to react that way over a burner. And so therefore, it became very easy for me over the course of time to just explain to people, "Oh, I just stay home. I don't go very far. I don't leave my house very often. I just stay at home." And by doing that, I thought I was protecting myself. But in actual fact, I'm harming myself because I'm not getting the fresh air then that's very important, and I'm not doing things like that. So now I'm trying to make a very conscious effort to get out, to recognize when my brain is not functioning properly and is seeing things unreasonable. It's the same way it is when I told you about how I have a big credit with the power company because I keep paying a bill that I don't need to pay. Can't stop myself from paying it. I'm trying to work on that. So, in that light, I'm going to tell you another little story. When we lived in the apartment building in Bridgewater, we were one of the first people that moved into the building. We were, I think, the third couple that moved into all the suites. It was a brand new building. So we'd lived there right from the very start. And 8 years into living there, just before we were ready to move out, actually, 8 years into it, I was going down on the elevator. And there was a woman who I had seen many times in the hallways and whatnot, but I always stayed very well hidden. Nobody hardly ever saw me. And so I met her, and she was in the elevator. And she's a chatty wee thing, and she says to me, she says, "Oh, are you new here?" And I said, "No." I said, "I've lived here for 8 years." I said, I just don't go out much. And she says, "Oh, I don't know whereabouts do you live?" And I said to her, I said, "Well, do you know a fellow named Bill? He has a beard and whatnot." "Oh, yes, we know Bill." And I said, "Well, I'm his wife." And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, we heard that he had a wife." And I said, "Well, I'm the wife you heard about." We heard he had a wife. Anyway, I laughed about that one. It was like, okay, well, at least the word is out that I'm not a figment of everybody's imagination. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll see you all tomorrow.